You're listening to The Narrow Mind, June 8th, 2007.
814 interview with Jack McClellan.
You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and of sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of the imagination. There's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, The Narrow Mind.
All right, all you narrow mind addicts out there, thanks for tuning in on this Friday edition of The Narrow Mind. Normally we have our Open Phones Friday on Friday evening at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, but tonight we're going to do something a little bit out of the norm. That's right, we're going to do something a little bit out of the norm. Now, you would have been notified about what that change is if you are a subscriber to the Narrow Mind Update email group. You can become a subscriber to that announcement group by simply clicking on the green mailbox there on the homepage at unchainedradio.com. Once you do that and send us an email, you'll actually be in the loop, and you'll be receiving these special announcements from time to time. A couple of days ago, I was watching Fox News. In fact, I think it was on Tuesday. I was watching Fox News, and I was watching Studio B with Shepard Smith, and they had a report about a guy who has a pedophile website. That's right, he's got a pedophile website. You might wonder, how can somebody have a pedophile website in this day and age without, of course, living in the United States, without running into problems with the law? And so I looked up the website that was given on the Fox News report and contacted the owner of the site. His name is Jack McClellan, and invited him to be my guest tonight on The Narrow Mind so that we could talk about his website and talk about a few other things as well. So I'd like to bring our guest on the line now. Jack, are you with us? We have Jack?
Yeah, hello?
All right, there we go. We got you now. So, Jack, welcome to the program, first of all.
Okay, thank you.
And now you were living in Seattle, right? You were living in Seattle with your parents, and you now moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's right. I was living in Seattle. I'm in Los Angeles now.
Okay. And how old are you?
45.
You're 45 years old. And you've got a website that is, let me pull it up here. It's the title across the homepage is Los Angeles Girl Love. And it says, girl-oriented pedophilia in the Southland. The primary purpose of this site is to promote association, friendship, and legal, non-sexual, consensual touch, hugging, cuddling, etc. between men and prepubescent girls. I don't practice sexual touching of such girls. I'm not a sex offender. I'm not prohibited from being around children. So, Is that your website?
Yep.
And how long has this website been on the internet?
Well, it used to be titled Seattle, Tacoma, Everett Girl Love before I moved down here a couple of weeks ago, but it was basically the same thing. And the other key difference was when I had it up there, I had pictures that I had taken at these family events. They were really quite provocative, and of children, and I don't do that anymore. It was just way too provocative and controversial, and I thought a lot of the controversy would go away now that the pictures are gone, but there still seems to be a lot of controversy associated with it. So
you're editing the website, taking down the pictures of the girls. Is it because you were afraid that people might harm you physically, or what was? You said it's controversial, but it doesn't seem to me that you would be one that shies away from controversy.
Well, the whole thing was kind of an experiment. I mean, it just really started. It just sort of really evolved in the last couple of years. I started it a couple of years ago. It's just this kind of paragraph or two blog. I'd go out to these family events and just kind of blog about that, and it just kind of evolved into. I just started enjoying these kiddie events more and chronicling them and taking photos. Well, I was taking photos back then, and it sort of evolved from that.
So people actually saw their daughters on your website and complained about it.
Yes, there were incidents of that, yeah.
Did the police come out to your home?
Yes, but initially the police contact started when I was at these events, and this was almost 2 years ago when they started talking to me. I've probably been questioned 10 or so times at these events I've gone to, maybe even more. I've kind of lost count, by police and maybe other security people, and they've never arrested me, obviously, because I haven't done anything illegal, but just kind of questioning me and, see what I was up to.
So you say you haven't done anything illegal?
No. Well, I mean, I think there's kind of a fear that I'm going to go to one of these things and grab a kid, but I mean, especially with all the spotlight on me the last couple of years, there's no way I'd do that. And I know I'm being monitored in a lot of these things, maybe even all of them now, rather closely. So. Have
they ever confiscated your computer, for example?
No. They probably suspect. I don't have a computer now. I'm down here just using internet cafes, but
right.
Back up in Washington, they probably suspected it was loaded with child porn, and I always had in the back of my mind that one of these days they're going to come blasting in with a search warrant somehow and haul the thing away and do a child porn search on it. And of course, I never did have any child porn on it. I mean, but no, it was never confiscated.
So your attraction is to young girls?
Yes, prepubescent, yeah.
What ages?
Mine is approximately age 3 to 11. There is quite and it's just females. And a lot of these, there is a difference. I mean, some pedophiles are into both sexes. Some are go right down to the baby age and even up into the teens. But that's my focus.
Now, you say that you do classify yourself as a pedophile.
Yes, and I didn't even consider myself one until a couple of years ago. I started reading a couple of these other sites. One was called Girl Chat, is actually kind of a bulletin board, and I started reading the posts on there, and the guys on there seemed pretty intelligent, and they didn't sound like they were out luring kids, and they were really mindful of laws, and I just kind of related to all that, and I kind of got into that, and I ended up some point back there a couple of years, I did start identifying myself as a pedophile,
And do you feel that you have a problem?
I personally don't see much of a problem. I mean, obviously there's a problem in terms of the way most people in society perceive me. I think most people perceive me as kind of a threat or someone they don't want around their kids, but I personally don't see myself as having much of a problem. I admit it's abnormal, and maybe it would even fit the definition of perverted for me to want to be around, female children all the time. But it makes me happy, and I'm not breaking any laws or hurting any kids. So I don't really see that I have a problem.
Okay. When you were living with your parents, did your parents think that you had a problem?
Yeah, they kind of pushed me into counseling a month or two ago, and I went to a few sessions, and I don't know, I just didn't seem to be doing much. I mean, the counselor wasn't really very forceful; just kind of sat back and let me talk for an hour or two, and I don't know, it just kind of seemed like a waste of time.
And when was the last time you actually had a relationship with a woman? I mean, do you have a girlfriend or anything like that?
I've had kind of, I don't even know if we call them serious girlfriends, but I've had intimate relationships with women, quite a few. Not in recent years though, since I've gotten more into the children. I've kind of lost. I don't really, I guess you'd say, chase women as much as I used to. I mean, I don't really chase them at all anymore.
Okay, let me ask you this. I don't know if you've taken a look at our website for the Narrow Mind radio broadcast, but I actually pastor a church in San Diego, so this is a radio program that comes from a Christian perspective.
Okay.
I noticed that you have a link here on your website for the American Atheists.
Yes.
Are you an atheist?
Yeah, I got into the atheism, oh man, like way back in the late 80s. I started identifying myself as an atheist. I haven't really done much aside from put that link up, and I used to belong to that organization many, many years ago, but I wouldn't consider myself an atheist activist at this point.
Okay, and did you have any type of religious upbringing when you were a child or young man?
Yes, my parents were sort of they were kind of Mormons, but not really hardcore. We went to church when we lived down here in California for a while, but they kind of drifted away from the church, and it kind of became pretty much a kind of a secular kind of environment.
And what led you to the place where you came to the point where you professed yourself to be an atheist? I mean, have you read
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking way back then. Like I said, this was back in the mid or late 80s. I know I did believe have a belief in God and maybe even Christ back in the 70s and early 80s. So somehow I just kind of drifted away from that, and the atheism started making more sense.
And okay, what was it that about atheism that actually made sense to you?
I guess I started. It just seems to make more sense scientifically. I mean, I think the atheists. I don't want to really misquote them because I haven't read too much of their stuff lately, and kind of gotten a little on my mind. But I think the main thing is they just kind of accept what is known scientifically and say, that's all we know. We don't know anymore, and I mean we can't really explain how the universe was created, or even how I don't think they even really explain scientifically how life started on Earth at this point. It's a little bit of a mystery, but I think they just kind of accept what is known scientifically, and they leave it at that, and they just kind of say, let's do more research. Yeah.
Now, there's nothing scientifically that would, I guess, argue against a man being attracted to a 11-year-old girl, would there?
No, I think it is kind of a. I think the term is kind of a paraphilia. It is a philia. I mean, it's an odd orientation. So it would be classified as a philia in this society, or probably virtually any society in the world. But I don't know if you could explain it scientifically or not. Right.
So I'm assuming that you have a lot of people that are pretty upset with you. They would probably like to beat you up if they saw you walking down the street.
Yeah, and I have had a lot of threats, and I get threats almost daily in the email box. People threatening to. I think the latest one was they said on the news here recently that I was kind of out in the Venice area of L.A. and someone sent an email in the next day saying they're going to have some gangbangers from Venice get me. I mean, I think most of it's pretty ridiculous and hot air. I mean, I'm sitting here parked in the street here, but I mean. People are driving by. I've even seen cops drive by on a boulevard behind me, but no one really knows who I am, or kind of like picking out a needle in a haystack, really.
So, are you calling me on a payphone or a cell phone?
I'm on a cell phone.
Okay, and I suppose the next question would be, what is your source of income? I mean, do you have a regular job?
Well, I was getting SSI for a while, and I'm trying to get hooked up with some services here in the West LA area, Santa Monica, Venice area, and some other areas east of downtown LA. But it sounds like I'll be able to get like on a Section 8 subsidized housing program here, so it's going to take several months, and it's going to be kind of a rough several months until then. Okay.
So you've got some money on you between now and then?
Yeah, I get some money every month, but I mean it's pretty much peanuts compared to the cost of living out here. I can't afford to take a motel every night.
Right. So you're sleeping in your car from time to time?
Yeah, about half the time.
And you, let's talk about your actual experience with these young girls, because you've got a link on your website that actually goes over to some. Let me see what the name of it was. Goes over to another website where they have both nude men, women, boys.
eNature.
eNature.net. And what is that all about?
Now, I just wanted to emphasize that is a legal site. It's not considered child porn under, I guess, any state in the U.S. And obviously, I mean, it's there, and it's been there for years, and the feds and the authorities know all about it. And if it was illegal, they would have shut it down. And what they do is they sell. I think they take all this stuff and they film all this stuff in Eastern Europe, and for some reason it's more liberal over there for this kind of stuff. And they film children they film families and adults and children at these events, nudist events over there, and then they sell the DVDs and videos.
Okay, so have you been to any of these events?
Over there in Europe?
Yeah.
No, I haven't been to Europe in 15, 17 years or something.
Okay, on your website, as I read at the beginning of the program, you say that you like to touch young girls in a non-sexual way.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you get out of that?
Pardon?
What happens? I mean, why would you? Do you get some type of satisfaction just from hugging a young girl?
Oh yes, it's quite marvelous for someone with an attraction to children to actually make physical contact, and I want to emphasize legal physical contact with a child. Yes, just hugging, and this would be clothed hugging. I mean, I'm not talking about getting naked with a child at all, but just a legal embrace with a child is quite an experience for a pedophile. I mean, it's not like we're getting erections from this or some sort of sexual release, but it's quite satisfying.
Okay, but you mentioned that there is an erotic attraction.
Yes, and I've mentioned this in other interviews, and I've admitted. I mean, if it was legal to take this contact with children all the way to a sexual level, I'd probably do it, or I'd probably try it. I mean, if I could find a willing girl, and it would be like a completely consensual thing. It wouldn't be like a prostitution act where I was bribing her with money or candy or who knows what, or a trip to Disneyland. It would have to be a completely consensual situation, and of course it would have to be legal, which probably will never happen. But.
Okay, Jack, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines at 1-800-466-1873. That is toll free, 1-800-466-1873. Or you can call us on the local line at 951-676-0583.
This is Airman First Class Thornsberry. I am an airborne cryptologic linguist stationed in Monterey, California. And when my friends are out on leave and liberty during the weekends, I stay in and listen to The Narrow Mind.
Dang. Our phone number, once again, 1-800-466-1873. If you'd like to talk to Jack McClellan, the owner of the Girl Love website for Los Angeles, California, now is your opportunity to do that. Our number, 1-800-466-1873. Jack, you mentioned before you went to the break that if you thought that, you said if it was legal to have sex with a girl, to have sexual relations with a girl that's between the ages of 3 and 11, if you thought that was something that would be acceptable, then you would probably do it. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes. Could you hang on for? I had to move. There was some. I found a new spot. There was a cop car that kept kind of it was circling me like a fish, and I haven't had any contact with the cops here in L.A. yet, and I'm just trying to avoid them. I don't know if they recognized me or figured out it was me from the license plate. And anyway, I'm at a new spot now, so okay, I'm ready to talk. What was the question? Was
you mentioned before we went to the break that if it was legal to have sexual relations with a girl that is between the ages of 3 and 11, that you'd do it?
Yeah, and I think most pedophiles probably would. I mean, obviously some are doing it anyway, regardless of the yeah.
Well, what is it? Just your fear of getting caught?
Well,
I mean, what's preventing?
I mean, the penalties for having sexual contact with a child, probably in any state in the U.S. now, are so great. I mean, I'd never even risk something like that. I mean, you're talking years in prison with the ages I'm talking about. Like the prepubescent children. I mean, in Washington, you could potentially get life for doing anything sexually with someone under 12 in Washington State. I'm not sure what it is here in California, but I know they just ratcheted up the penalties here last year.
Do you think that's too harsh?
Pardon?
Do you think that penalty is too harsh?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think at some point it gets, and they're talking about the death penalty in some states. I don't know, Texas, for some reason, comes to mind. I think they eventually might make it so strict and so the penalty is so high that it's actually going to have the opposite effect. I mean, these people who are intent on doing this, what it's going to do is it might make these people who are intent on doing this actually figure they have nothing to lose by killing the child to prevent them from talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's kind of a fear for some of us ethical pedophiles, and I consider myself ethical. I mean I'd never do anything to a child that wasn't completely consensual or against their will.
So the thought of holding down a small child, a young girl, while she's screaming for her mother while you sexually assault her, that'd be out of the question.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just horrible.
Why is that horrible, Jack? Why is that horrible? If we're all the product really of evolution, in other words, there is no God, what difference does it make? I mean, we're all just animals, right? Well,
I don't know if it really plays into the atheism, but I've never done that. I've never raped a woman. I'm attracted. I still find women somewhat attractive. I never. But I wouldn't see a woman walking down the street and try that. So there's no way I'd do it to a child either. It's just. I try to live by the golden rule. I do, and do unto others, as you'd have done to yourself.
And would you mind a 45-year-old man? Let's say if you had a daughter that was 5 years old, would you mind a 45-year-old man squeezing her and hugging her and touching her and caressing her?
Well, it's hard to put myself in that situation because I have kids. But if I try to do it, it would probably make me a little, at least a little uneasy. But if it was something my daughter really wanted to do, and it wasn't hurting her in any way. I don't know. I'd try to have an open mind about it, and
Wow, that's pretty shocking, Jack. It sounds like your immediate response is to resist that idea, but then if you're going to be consistent, you'd have to say that you're going to have an open mind about it.
Yeah, if I'm going to be consistent here, like you said, I started thinking, well, yeah, it probably would make me at least nervous. Someone like myself,
Do you have any?
What?
Do you have any nieces or nephews?
I only have nephews.
Okay. Where you mentioned that you've experienced this type of hugging, and I'm not sure to what degree you went with as far as the description goes, but you've had contact with young girls in the past. Where did you find these young girls, or who were they? Were they acquaintances of the family, or where did you? Because you don't just walk up to a playground where there's a 10-year-old girl playing and start hugging her. So I'm just curious, what kind of relationships would you have with these children or their parents that would allow you to get that close to them?
Right. I've never really considered a possibility that I go to one of these fairs or festivals that I go to all the time and be able to, start hugging girls, and it's never happened. The only way it's happened in the past is there have been girls that have lived around me in the Seattle area, and but that it's kind of a neighbor situation. But again, it was just there was nothing sexual, nothing pulling down pants or anything like that. It was just it was just an embrace. Okay, and
did the neighbors, the parents of this young girl, know about your website?
No. This was quite a long time ago. I'm talking about let's see, late '80s. back in there, because when I was living with my parents recently, they live kind of out in the country, and it's more of an isolated area. I didn't really have any friends out there.
All right, and so you're telling us then, you're telling me, you're telling our listening audience that you've never had any type of sexual touching feeling going on with these young girls.
Sexual feeling?
In other words, not sexual feelings, but you've never touched them in a sexual way that's inappropriate or against the law. That's
correct. That's correct. And this is going all the way back to when I was a teen, and when I have had physical contact with girls going back to when I was a mid-teen, and younger girls at that time too, and there was never any sexual touching.
Now, where do you think that desire comes from? Did you ever stop and think about that? I mean, did you ever ask the question, like, why do I have this desire to touch, to hug these young girls?
I don't know if I ever really analyzed it like that. It's just I just kind of accepted it, and lately, last couple of years, I've kind of accepted that I really do, at least these days, fit into the pedophile category, and I've just tried to be honest with myself about it, and in the world, really, with this website, and you know, deal with it in an open, public manner, and hope maybe it'd help other people who are kind of in the closet with these feelings. Maybe they could kind of hook onto my site and get some links to some other pedophile sites and get some, you know, advice there and stuff. I mean, to stay within the law with this stuff.
If I had a guy, let's say that I was interviewing a guest, and he told me that he constantly has this inclination to steal things, and he's had this since he was young, and he has a website about stealing things, and he's got links to professional thieves, and he really likes to talk about stealing things, but he's never stolen anything in his life. Would you believe him?
Well, I don't know if that's a completely completely 100% analogy there, because what I say, and I say right at the top of my site, that I'm only into this legal stuff, and if you look at some of these other pedophile links that I have farther on the page, they really don't. I don't think any of them really get into the counseling people to do illegal acts either. It's all about trying to stay within the law, and I'm not naive. I'm sure that some of these guys on these boards and chats and these other pedo sites, and I'm sure some of them are stepping over the line. And well, actually, I know some of them are, because I read some of those posts.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. My whole thing is just to go to these festivals, to just admire the girls there, stay within the law, and you know, if I can develop another relationship in the future with a girl, it would just again be just the hugging and the cuddling type stuff. And
you would be content with that?
Yeah, well, I'd have to be, because
So you wouldn't be content with that. You're when you say I'd have to be, you can't have to be content. I mean, you're saying that. That's as far as you could go, but you wouldn't be content with that.
Well, I don't know. I've never done the sexual stuff with girls, prepubescent girls. So I don't know. Maybe it really isn't that much of a burning desire with me. I mean,
do you fantasize?
There is a desire there, but I mean, like I told the TV crew the other day, I think there are a lot of shades and variations of this pedophilia stuff. I don't think most of us are at the point where we're so we desire it so much where we're going to do anything, even if it takes going out and grabbing a kid to get our fulfillment. I think most of us can stay within the law, and I think a lot of people they go into professions where they're around kids all the time, like school teachers. I think a lot of them are probably closet pedophiles, and I think most of them stay within the law. It's only the very small minority of bad apples that make the news and kind of give us all a bad name.
But you don't see your website as a website that is actually promoting this type of behavior. I mean, just given the analogy that I gave you about the guy that fantasizes about being a thief,
Yeah.
You and I, we wouldn't believe him for a minute. We'd say, that's impossible, that you've never stolen anything. I find it very hard to believe that you've actually never sexually abused a young girl. Now, you're telling me that you haven't. I don't have any evidence otherwise, but it's just very hard for me to believe.
Yeah, well, I know that's part of one of the things I'm doing the site, because there's so much misinformation about this we child lovers. I think most of us never do anything sexual with a child, even if we'd want to. And
most of you?
Yeah, I really do. I'm reading like this girl chat board. I think most of the guys in there are just like me. I mean, unless they're lying. I guess all I can say 100% for sure is what I've done, and I know I've never done anything sexual with a child, but I kind of get the feeling that most of those guys on there are like me. They probably most would like to take it to a sexual level, but it's just not worth the risk. I mean, the people that do that in the U.S. these days, they get locked up for 10 plus years, seems like at a minimum, and a lot of states they get into what's called indefinite confinement or something like that, and that can just drag on for the rest of your life. A lot of these guys never get out. All
right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back in just a moment. Our phone number, 1-800-466-1873. When we return, 1-800-466-1873.
Two suits, two tokens in hand. I got no respect cause I'm the new man. Got my shovel, shoes full of sand. Check out the tag, the name's Caveman.
Hello, Gene. This is John in the Smoky Mountains, and I listen to The Narrow Mind, and I love it when you talk about the law of non-contradiction. I mean, I hate it when you talk about the law of non-contradiction, and I don't listen to The Narrow Mind and never have. In fact, I'm not talking on the phone right now because I'm here and not here at the same time, but not in the same location. And as all of God's people said, booyah.
You want a break? Knock on the warden's door. Dig it up, oh yeah. 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 Dig it up, oh yeah.
G'day, this is Matt from Brisbane, Australia, and I'm a narrow mind addict.
On this Friday evening, the 8th of June, 2007, our phones are awfully quiet tonight, and I'm not sure why. I expected actually the exact opposite, but the phones are very quiet. In fact, nobody's calling in, which is very unusual, especially for a Friday evening. I'm interviewing tonight Frank McClellan. Frank has a website. He was formerly in Seattle. Oh, I'm sorry, Jack McClellan. Thank you, Grace. I think Frank McClellan is a car dealer in National City, right? That's why I got the mix up there. Sorry about that, Jack. But I'm interviewing Jack McClellan, and we're talking about his website. He formerly lived in Seattle, Tacoma area, and he has a website that promotes what he describes as the legal, appropriate hugging and touching of prepubescent girls, which for me as a father, I have two daughters. Both of them are, one is married now, one's almost, she's 17 years old. But I also have a granddaughter now that's about a year and a half. And I got to tell you, Jack, this is very troubling for me, that there are men out there that would like to embrace our daughters, hug them, and if they could, legally and consensually, have sexual relations with them. Does that make sense to you that I, as a father and a grandfather of a young girl, would have a problem with your website and with your whole approach to this issue?
I can definitely understand that, but I don't know. I don't know if the solution to all this is to just kind of keep it in the closet, or just what I'm trying to do, be more open about it. I mean, the people. And another thing I want to point out is that the people with this attraction to children are really, we're not just just kind of weird eccentrics. I mean, we come from all walks of life. I mean, there was a Los Angeles policeman who just got in trouble a week or two ago down in Orange County, taking pictures. They said he was taking pictures up a 5-year-old girl's skirt. So, I mean, some of these guys are even cops.
Yeah,
And,
you know, I heard about that, and I also heard I heard of this through secondary sources. So I haven't been able to confirm it yet, but when they confiscated his computer, they found child pornography on it.
Oh, did they? I didn't hear that. Oh,
yeah. A pastor friend. I mean, he's a pretty reliable source, but I didn't read it in the the headlines myself. So
wow.
I was told that. Yeah. So he's got.
Well, I guess he's going to be going away for a while then.
So you're saying that there's other guys there's other guys out there like you that have these desires but don't act on them.
Yeah, and again, I mean, all I did at those festivals up in Washington State was to take pictures of girls at the festivals. And I don't even do that anymore. I mean, I've taken a few pictures down here, but they've just been kind of wide field of the crowd of the whole event, the aggregate event. I don't focus on kids anymore, but no, I never try anything like that. Taking a picture of a girl's skirt. I mean, that's just that you might as well just take yourself down to the police station and turn yourself in, and you know, it's crazy.
But if it was legal, you'd like to.
I don't know if I'm not really kind of I'm not really a voyeur type. I mean, if it was legal to have some sexual touching, and again, when I talk about what I'd maybe like to do with a little girl, it wouldn't be full-blown intercourse, because that's just crazy from a physiological standpoint, a grown man trying to do that. But, maybe there'd be some, just be blunt about it, some oral sex or something. But yeah, I mean, if it was legal, if it was legal, big if.
Now, this is from the outside looking in. Okay, as a pastor, I've been a pastor for many years now, done a lot of counseling. It looks like this is an addiction. You use the word a perversion. You use the word abnormal. Would you describe this as a type of addiction in your life?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely addicted to going to these family events. In fact, this whole kind of media hysteria really started a couple of months ago up in Seattle area, and at that point, my old web host provider shut me down, and the site was down for a few weeks. And I really kind of lied low. That's when I first got the TV exposure on national news and all that, and the whole thing really kind of freaked me out, and I really kind of thought everything out, and I kind of asked myself, can I really give this stuff up, and can I stop going to these things? Can I maybe find another hobby or something? And I don't know. After a few weeks, I was back going to the festivals up there again, and and then I started the site back up, and there was a big ruckus up there again, and that's when I decided to come back here, or come down here.
So, do you, when it comes to Christianity, let's bring this back to Christianity for a second here.
Okay.
Who do you think Jesus Christ is?
Pardon?
Who do you think that Jesus Christ was?
Well, he's the savior of the Christians. Other than that, I'm not sure what you want me to say.
No, you're absolutely right. He is the savior of the Christians, but if he's the savior of the Christians, that means he's saving the Christians from something, right?
Yes, sin.
Okay, sin and the consequences of sin, which is judgment.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he's the savior of the Christians and you're not a Christian, that means you're not going to be saved, that you're going to have to face the consequences of your sin.
Yes, that would make sense, yes.
That doesn't strike fear in your heart at all?
Well, because I really don't see that I've done anything wrong. I mean, I know I haven't done anything legally wrong with kids. I mean, I admit on the site I've broken some drug laws for quite a few decades, but I mean, that's just something I was doing to myself. It was kind of a consensual act. But I've never done anything illegal with a child. Have I done anything inappropriate with a child? I don't even think I could say that. I mean, everything I've done with children, playing with them, any way I've touched them, it's all been consensual, and none of them have ever complained. So again, I kind of feel like I live by the golden rule in that regard, and my conscience is fairly clear.
Okay, but Jesus said, even if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, you violated the law of God. Did you know that? Have you ever heard that?
Yes, I have heard that. And then if you're going to put it in that frame, yes, I guess I have violated the child sex laws in my mind.
Okay. Have you ever stolen anything?
Stolen?
Yeah.
Robbed?
I mean,
Robbed?
Just, like even a candy bar as a kid or anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't have any big record for felony theft, but yeah, there were some shoplifting incidents, I guess. That's fairly normal. Yeah, I have stolen candy. Yeah.
Have you ever told a lie?
Yeah, of course. I think most of us tell at least lies every day, or white lies, or yeah.
And have you ever used the Lord's name in vain? As a cuss word?
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Now, that makes you a liar, an adulterer, because you've committed adultery in your heart. It makes you a thief, and it also makes you a blasphemer. Now, if Jesus came to save the sins of Christians, and you're not a Christian, that means you're going to have to pay for your own sins.
Yeah.
God is going to hold you accountable, Jack.
Yeah,
Has anybody ever explained why Jesus died in the first place? I mean, you know that he died to save them from their sins, but has anybody ever explained to you why that act required his death?
I honestly, I used to know all that stuff, but I don't know, it's kind of faded from my mind. Like I said, I have just considered myself an atheist for the last couple decades, and I haven't. It has kind of faded out. So.
Okay, Jesus came and he lived the perfect life. He obeyed the law of God with 100% perfection. And then he gave himself voluntarily as a substitute and a sacrifice for guilty sinners. So he died in my place. In other words, when he died, even though he was innocent, he took my sin upon himself and died as if he was guilty, so that he could give me his innocence or his perfect obedience.
Okay.
And so he makes me acceptable to the Father by taking away my sin, by dying for basically taking upon himself the punishment that belonged to me, and then by faith he gives me his perfection, his righteousness that makes me acceptable to his Father. Now,
okay.
Has anybody ever explained that to you?
Not recently. Maybe I should ask you a question. What do you think? What do you think Christ would make of all this pedophile stuff? Would that be a sin, or?
Yeah. Well,
it would.
Jesus at one point of his earthly ministry, he turned to the children and he said, "Whoever harms one of these little ones, it would be better off if he had a millstone tied around his neck and cast into the water."
Wow.
So, he had very harsh words to say about those that would in any way harm a child.
Yeah.
And I believe, Jack, that your website is promoting the harm of children. You might, if you're telling me the truth, okay, you haven't harmed a child in that way. But you're only a slip away. The Bible says, "Let he who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall." We don't know our own vulnerabilities. You could get yourself in a situation where nobody's watching and you could lose self-control. None of us have perfect self-control in our lives to do the things that we want to do. And so I'm very concerned, first of all, for your soul. I'm concerned that if you...
I have worried about that. I don't know. If I did get in a situation where it was just me and a girl and there were no witnesses, I have wondered about that.
Exactly. And that's what these guys do.
Would I try something? I don't think I would. Even if there's no one watching, especially with all the scrutiny on me, and when everyone trying to bust or something.
But you've heard about. I'm sure you've heard about Dateline with Chris Hansen.
Yes, To Catch a Predator. Yeah.
Okay, he's got these guys lined up all day long. They're coming into the house all day long, and guess what? All of them say, I wasn't going to do anything sexual. All of them say, I can't believe I did this. This is so unlike me. I mean, they're all ashamed.
Yeah.
And some of them are professionals. Some of them are in the military.
Yeah, there was a rabbi. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and take a call. Let's go out to. I'm going to have to put you on hold because one of our pieces of equipment broke here, Jack.
Okay.
So, but you'll be able to hear the caller. Let's go out to Overland Park, Kansas, and talk to Keith. Keith, welcome to the Narrow Mind.
Hi, Gene. You actually asked one of my questions, but I wanted to point it further, I guess, and ask him if getting caught, I mean, that's not really going to help him before God, not getting caught. And so really his only offense is before God, and that's what he should worry about. And all of this won't matter when he dies. All of whether there's witnesses, I mean, God is everywhere.
That's right. The Bible says that God sees everything. Everything is laid before his eyes.
Right. I was going to ask him about the lust, committing adultery in your heart, but you already were asking as soon as I picked up the phone. So.
Right. Great point, Keith. I appreciate the call.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Can I just interrupt here?
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
I'm sitting here kind of next to a park, and a little girl just rode by on a bike, and I didn't see her face, but I mean, she looked kind of cute from the background, but I'm not so out of control that I'd grab a kid like that off the street, and I think that's a lot of the fear of this of me, and that's what I'm trying to quell. Right.
Now, as Keith mentioned, Jack, you said that, as we've been talking to you, well, if nobody was around and if I didn't think I was going to get caught, or even in the case where the laws approved of it, it wasn't illegal. You see, as Keith points out, all of us are just one heartbeat away from death. Yeah. I could die today. You could die today. We could both die tomorrow. And the Bible says that when man dies, he's going to face his Maker. So you're going to be held accountable for your sin. And ill thoughts, let's say that a man, for example, just to give you the implications of your website, let's say that a man, he wasn't really attracted to young girls, but then he came upon your website, and all of a sudden he developed this attraction. And now, as a result of him visiting your website and developing this attraction, he goes out and harms a little girl. I think that the Lord would hold you responsible in that for your contribution to that sin. Because
I've thought that out, and the way I look at it is this. This might seem a little warped to most people, but this is the kind of way I see it. I kind of see that if I lead someone to a cliff and say, hey, isn't this a nice view, but don't jump off the cliff, and they jump off the cliff anyway, then I don't really see how I could be responsible. I mean, there are quite a few warnings on the site. Well, I used to have the Washington state laws. I got to get the California laws on there now, I guess.
Right, but this doesn't set aside the fact that you yourself are a guilty sinner. All of us are guilty sinners, Jack. Some of us, I had a problem with drugs before I became a Christian. I was addicted to drugs. You've got men running around out there that are addicted to raping women. You've got men out there that are inclined to rob banks. You've got, you name it. For every single crime, there's people out there that have an inclination toward that crime. And a bank robber who just sits around and thinks about robbing the bank really hasn't done anything wrong until he robs the bank. But it's only a matter of time. I know, what was his name? The guy that interviewed this morning, Rick Roberts.
Yeah.
He told you the same thing. And I'm telling you the same thing. But I'm telling you from a different perspective. I'm telling you that I don't believe it's a coincidence that you responded to my email and that you came on my program. I would like to see you get help. And I think that you can be helped. And so I'm gonna give you the invitation, Jack, to call me back. If I want you to think about this. Okay. And if you really want help, and you want to get right with God, you want to have a clear conscience, you really want to practice the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That can only be realized as a Christian in Jesus Christ. Because you cannot, you even hesitated when I said, would you want somebody doing this if you had a daughter? And you knew in your heart of hearts the answer is no. Because you wouldn't trust that man. And yet you would be willing to do this to other men's daughters.
Yeah, I can't see that angle of it. Yeah.
So I want to appeal to you, Jack. I'm not here to, I think, let me make this clear. I think what you're doing is wrong. I think what you're doing is dangerous. I think that you are only a slip away from harming a child, which is very serious, not only in the eyes of this society, but also in the eyes of God. But at the same time, I want to reach out to you as a Christian and tell you that there's a better way, that God did not create you, Jack, to sit around and have these unfulfilled fantasies about something that is sick and twisted. He created you in His image to be a worshiper of Him. And if you're interested in that at all, Jack, believe me, I'd be more than willing to dialogue with you on the phone and try to help you any way I can.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I don't know how much longer this interview is going to go on.
Well, we're out of time. Yeah,
what?
We're out of time.
What?
We're out of time now.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say I got to check my cell phone minutes. I'm doing so many interviews these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do appreciate you treating me in a nice voice on here. I know Rick got a little hot under the collar this morning, but I kind of expect that.
Well, you've got my number, so if you want to get in touch with me, you know where to find me. You've also got my email address, and believe me, I will do what I can to get you some help and get you in contact with some people in Los Angeles that will be seriously interested in helping you, because this is something that you can overcome. You can be a normal member of society as a Christian man. God can save you. He can save your soul from the sin that you've committed as a human being, but furthermore, He can redirect your desires and redirect your energy into something that is beneficial for His glory and for His kingdom. So I want to thank you, Jack, for coming on the program. I got a question for our listening audience here. How do we help a guy like Jack? I mean, when I first heard about this, I really wanted, my first inclination was, I just want to strangle this guy. If I saw him, my flesh would probably want to hurt him physically and teach him how evil this is. But the reality is he's a sinner. He's a lost sinner. How do we help a guy like this? What do we do if he comes to our church and says, what do I do to be saved? I mean, how do we handle that? Do we want to isolate ourselves from these people? Or do we sense an obligation, a responsibility as Christians to seek to have them redeemed, saved, born again? I'm going to ask my listening audience, those of you that listen to this MP3, pray for Jack. He is not outside of the reach of a sovereign God. We'll be back on Monday evening, Lord willing, at 6 p.m. We'll see you then. Have a good weekend.